It is still Econo Chat. Let's talk business with Mr. Daniel Steinman on the Power Station Energy 100 with myself, Elsaby. We have been talking about investment. We've been talking about, how the country's economy is actually, or how big is the playing field for the country's economy. And we've touched on the private sector investment, but of course, going back to government investment, Mr. Daniel Steinman, you've mentioned that the government, or should I say off air, the government actually does not invest directly, but we have a problem.
Well, not enough, Elsa.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Okay, but I do have a problem that we have made it a norm as a country that we don't invest enough. Like you were saying, we rather would go out and ask for money.
Okay. The principle
consumption,
here,
investment.
The principle is consumption versus investment.
Yeah.
Now you need to have a balance.
We need to.
And we had a very nice balance up to about 2014. And
I was about to say 15.
14 and 15, those were the two balloon years. Everything was just going off the top. It was fantastic. The economy was running on 6 cylinders. You couldn't believe it. And then reality caught up with us. And the only way that and what happened in the meantime is the civil service just grew bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
But it wasn't an issue because the economy was growing and growing and growing and growing until about September 2016. And then we realized, here's trouble. And now you get to that point where there's a very sharp reduction in government revenue. In other words, because the whole economy is slowing down, we're going into a recession. The taxes companies don't make profit, so the taxes are very limited. And all of a sudden, that abstract thing that we call economics becomes very real and very much in your face in this simple question, am I going to lose my job or not? And this is what people don't realize. That is an economic consideration. Who will keep his job and who will lose his job? When you make that jump from economics, the academic discipline, to the social side, where it touches you in your house, then you realize, this is now very important. This is becoming critical. So we've been battling with that problem since 2017. And the reality is that the civil service was the right size for the economic growth that we had from 2012 to 2015. But for the recession that we had from 2017 to 2019, the civil service was too big. But it's not that easy just to make it smaller.
Okay.
Because of what I said.
Yeah.
Now you have to start deciding who stays and who goes. And that's not an easy thing.
It isn't.
It's also very, very much hitting home. It's not something you can escape. And so,
can you use Air Namibia as an example?
It's a painful example, but Air Namibia is a very, very good example. That eventually the debt burden became just too big and they couldn't continue, and the government was at the end of its fiscal space. Its revenues became stagnant, very little growth. The government borrowings, they were just borrowing more and more and more just to keep this going. And eventually they couldn't afford to keep the airline afloat. So Air Namibia, a painful example. And, we may look at it from the outside. We didn't work there. But if your father or your mother or your husband or whoever, if he or she worked at Air Namibia, for that family, that was a tragedy.
It was.
Regardless of the fact that they were retrenched with good packages and they paid guaranteed for so many months and everything, at the end of the day, when a company goes under like Air Namibia did, you are faced with that painful reality that people are going to lose their jobs and they will have to go look for new jobs.
And we already do.
And it's in a recession. If it was in a growing economy, finding a new job is easy. In a recession, there are no jobs.
Yes.
That's the reality. So we need to take, by we I mean you and I and our government, need to take very very, very good care that we design and grow our economy in such a way that it is sustainable. Now, everybody loves that word sustainable, and very few people realize the implication of when you are not sustainable. So, Elsie, what we're looking at is this balance between consumption and investment.
Yes.
So that we can use that word sustainable not just as a fancy word, not as a political slogan or a cliche, but as an economic principle. Yes. So that we know that whatever we are investing in today, in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years and 50 years from now, it will still be employing people. It will be paying salaries. It will be making a profit. It will be paying tax to the government. That is the real meaning of sustainable. But for that, you must have a balance between how much you consume of the money you need and how much you put aside and you invest it in projects. In other words, what you and I said in the beginning, if we want to see the returns a year or 2 years or 5 years from now, we have to invest now. So the private sector must start borrowing again. They will not do that until they are confident that the economy is growing again. Can I end this talk, Elsie, with a very, very good snippet? Only last week, the Bank of Namibia raised their growth projections from 2.7% to 3.5%. This is for next year. Now, they are a very conservative bunch. They will not stick out their necks and publicly say this is what we are expecting in terms of growth if they do not have very good reason to do so. So at least, remember 2 weeks ago we talked about green shoots, stuff that you and I can see where the economy is improving. Now we see another tangible thing in the fact that the Bank of Namibia, as the central bank says, we've turned the corner. We are definitely going to grow more in 2023 than this year.
Okay, so there's hope. We ended positively on EconoChat Let's Talk Business with Mr. Daniel Steinman. And of course, we are headed into our last 2 episodes before we actually say goodbye for the festive season. But in the meantime, keep it locked to the Power Station Energy 100 with myself, Elsie Tivingani, and Mr. Daniel Steinman. We say goodbye to you till next time.